Two sinister ghost stories, revealed horrors of the cursed and haunted secrets hidden for decades, in the quiet, unassuming town of Cedar Hollow, where the leaves turned crimson and gold, shadows began to stretch beyond their bounds, wrapping tightly around Anna's two-story home. The very walls creaked with secrets long buried, whispers of trapped souls eager to be unleashed. And for 35-year-old Anna, exhausted from late nights at the diner, those whispers were just the prelude to a nightmare more twisted than she could ever imagine. As autumn nights enveloped Cedar Hollow, an unsettling chill seeped through the cracks of their modest home. It began with faint noises, a soft murmur that slithered under Anna's door at night. "Just the wind," she muttered, trying to dismiss the feeling of unease that gnawed at her heart. Each day melted into the next, long shifts drained her spirit, leaving little warmth for her children, Mike and Lily. Yet within these mundane walls, underneath the cherished flicker of childhood laughter, something sinister was stirring. Days turned to weeks, the chill only deepening, leaving an icy touch lingering on the air. Then came Mr. Jensen, their seemingly kind-hearted neighbor. With his thinning gray hair and wide, disarming smile, he made offers that left Anna standing too still. "I can watch the kids, you know, whenever you need," he suggested, his tone sweet but with a hint of something darker. Why was he so eager? An instinct honed by motherhood whispered caution, but Anna brushed it off. After all, this was Cedar Hollow. What could possibly go wrong? One ominous evening, as the fog hung heavy in the air, Anna ventured down the staircase to fetch a lost toy. Every step felt like a descent into a chill, until she discovered a hidden cellar. Brushing aside cobwebs, she stumbled upon a tattered journal, a ledger of horrors chronicling rituals from a cult that once gripped Cedar Hollow in its icy clutches. A cold sweat broke over her brow. Mr. Jensen had always lingered, but now, with the dark contents of the journal unraveling the truth, she realized his connection to that forgotten darkness. Her heart raced, pulsing through her chest like a warning siren. Panic set deep, and it found its heart-stopping climax when Mike and Lily vanished after a school event. Every shadow became monstrous. Every rustle echoed like a mocking laughter as she dashed through the hushed streets, calling out for her children. Suddenly, the familiar faces of neighbors twisted into something grotesque. Rushed whispers and judgmental glances followed her, a chorus of disbelief rippling through the town. Their fear mirrored her own, awakening the ghosts that lingered between houses. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun dipped and darkness wove its spell over Cedar Hollow, Anna felt the sheer weight of dread suffocating her. Steeling herself, she found herself about to confront Mr. Jensen. The air grew thick, the tension palpable. His shadow loomed larger, sinister, and monstrous, as if the past had finally caught up with them. Her heart thundered violently against her chest, as icy fingers danced around her spine. She breathed shallowly, searching for the courage to face the very embodiment of terror plaguing her nightmares. With each second stretching out like an eternity, horror thrummed in her veins. What remained hidden beneath the surface of her cheery town? What if the ghosts were not just whispers but a reality waiting to consume her whole? The truth lay just beyond her grasp, and with dawn approaching, it taunted her, filling her thoughts with a chilling question: had the darkness already claimed her children? Anna stood at the edge of her yard, heart racing, feeling as if the very ground beneath her was shifting. Mr. Jensen's smile had morphed in her mind, twisting from neighborly warmth to a predatory leer. What was he hiding? The shadows around him danced like they had a life of their own. She wanted to scream, to run. But each moment of hesitation pulled her deeper into the nightmare looming over her family. "Anna, dear," his voice rang out, silky smooth and unsettling. "Did you find what you were looking for?" What did he know? She swallowed hard, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and rising dread. "Where are my children?" She stammered the words, breathless with terror. His laughter echoed, eerie in the twilight silence. Children. They're just playing games. A feeling of vertigo washed over her. Games. The hairs on her arms bristled. As shadows danced like specters around his figure, she felt the very ground beneath her tremble with unspoken horrors. "I'll make you a deal," Mr. Jensen continued, his voice lowering almost conspiratorially. "One more ritual, one more sacrifice." Without warning, panic surged within her. What kind of sacrifice? What are you talking about? His gaze bored into her, and for a fleeting moment, she could see something horrific lurking behind his eyes. "Just a piece of your heart," he said, his tone smooth yet dripping with malice. Anna's stomach twisted. A sick dread churned in her gut. Her heart thudded painfully, every beat a notion of despair, fear clawing at her throat. "You're mad." She turned, nearly tripping over a gnarled root as she sprinted back to the house. Her only hope now was to find Mike and Lily. She flung the door open, the familiar creak of the hinges now sounding like malevolent laughter. Each room was a dark cocoon, threatening and alive with whispers. Dust particles floated in the dim light, and for a moment, she felt as if they were watching her, waiting. Lily. Mike. Silence wrapped around her, wrapping tighter and tighter. Where were they? The walls seemed to close in, the chilling realization of her solitude sinking in like lead. Frantically, she searched the living room, then the kitchen, her pulse racing louder with each empty room. The comforting presence of their home became a claustrophobic prison. She stumbled to the basement door, the ladder down to the cellar now a looming abyss. Could the journal hold the key to her children's return? The cellar door creaked open under her trembling hand. She descended the steps, darkness swallowing her whole. The bracing chill gripped her, heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. Shadows flickered on the stone walls, and the air thickened with a noxious smell. Mike. Lily. Her voice echoed back at her, twisted and crooked. In the eerie silence, a whisper brushed past her ear, barely audible, but familiar. Mom. Anna froze, every muscle in her body rigid. Was it them? Her heart lurched. "Where are you?" A faint glow flickered in the corner, revealing a small table. Intrigued and terrified, she pushed closer, squinting into the dark. The glimmering light came from a shard of something shiny resting on an old, dusty book. A photograph lay amidst the clutter, one of her and the kids laughing together in a sun-soaked park, but the light dimmed, fading into the thick shadows around her as a cold breeze swept through the cellar, chilling her to the bone. The air grew heavier, and suddenly, she felt the weight of numerous eyes on her. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, clawing at her mind echoes of despair, lost hopes, children calling for help. Anna's breath quickened, pregnant with fear and desperation. It was all around her now. She turned, looking for an escape, for her children, but the shadows shifted again. Something tugged at her heart. A child's laugh faded into a choked sob, a memory distorted, forced into a nightmare. "Fight it, Anna. You have to fight it." A voice, deep and resonant, emerged from the darkness. Anna's mind raced. Fight what? What was happening? She could hear them now, Mike and Lily, somewhere beyond the veil. "Mommy, help us." But how? The journal? An incantation? As she struggled to succumb to the dread, she could feel the pull to those shadows, the dark whispers wrapping around her, threatening to drag her into their grasp. She took a shaky breath. Would she sacrifice her love to save them? And what did that even mean? With determination enveloping her like a shield, she whispered into the darkness, "I will find you." And then, out of the shadows stepped Mr. Jensen. "It's too late, Anna. You were never meant to find them." Where had that chilling voice come from? Was it in the basement, from a portal to the darkness? The weight of that portentous statement settled over her like a shroud, leaving her with a haunting realization that maybe, just maybe, her children were already gone. Maybe she was next. What price would she have to pay to reclaim her love? The abyss loomed near, and Anna had to decide fast. A choice was coming. What awaited her beyond the veil? The shadows twisted around Mr. Jensen, his form pulsating like smoke, mocking her resolve. Anna's breath caught in her throat as she willed her legs to move, but it felt like the very air had thickened, anchoring her in place while terror licked at her heels. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, fighting to sound stronger than she felt. Her heart was a chaotic drum, pounding incessantly against her ribs. "I never wanted anything from you, Anna. It was always about the children," he purred, his smile stretching unnaturally wide, revealing teeth that gleamed like sharpened knives in the dark. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. He had ensnared her children in his dark web, weaving some unspeakable fate. The thought made her skin crawl, and she took a step back, eyes darting around for an escape. "Leave them alone!" she cried, desperation crackling through her voice. "What have you done?" Betwixt the gathering shadows, she could see hints of movement, wisps that almost formed the outline of children. Ghostly laughter rang out, sent chills racing down her spine, shrieking, playful, then quickly shifting to a chorus of cries. "Mommy!" came the voices, clearer now, yet distorted, twisting like a knife in her heart. "Shut up!" she shouted into the darkness, clutching her head, feeling vulnerable and exposed. The memories of their laughter in the park, their innocent joys, began to dissolve, replaced by the grotesque imagery in the cellar that pressed in like an invasive fog. "What have you sacrificed?" Mr. Jensen's voice shifted low, reminding her of a predator sizing up its prey. "Was it worth it to bring them here?" "What do you mean?" she stammered, dread pooling in her stomach as the whispers picked up again, a chaotic symphony bathing her in dread. "I haven't sacrificed anything." "Oh, Anna, it's already begun. Each day you denied what was happening, you willingly lost pieces of yourself. And now, it is time to collect." With a flick of his wrist, the shadows lunged towards her. She felt them claw at her clothes, pulling, grasping, as they whispered her deepest fears. "Stop!" she screamed, struggling against the pull. Shrouds of darkness pressed against her, squeezing tight like a vice. The darkness responded with a murmur, sibilant hisses curling around her thoughts, filling her mind with doubts, visions twisting into monstrous forms of her beloved children, their features lost and distorted. "Mommy, help us!" pleaded a voice, but it was twisted, echoing back at her from the depths of despair. "Don't go. No. I want to leave you," she shouted back, chaos erupting as she clawed at the shadows, panic boiling into rage. She couldn't abandon them, couldn't let the darkness take hold. With a surge of adrenaline, Anna forced her way through the cold tendrils, reaching for the light coming from that shard on the table. She could feel an ancient power radiating from it, something that could harness her love and use it as her weapon. But just as her fingers brushed the shard, Mr. Jensen moved closer, his breath hot and rancid against her cheek. "Do you really think it's that simple?" The warmth of her determination began to cool as doubt crept back in. All around her, the whispers echoed bewilderingly. "It's too late, Anna. Get away from me." She gasped, eyes wide, as visions of what Mr. Jensen could do flared in her mind. What horrors awaited if she chose wrong. "Your children's fate hangs by a thread, as do yours. Make your choice." In that moment, all she could hear was the thudding of her heart, pounding a race against time. She stepped back, clutching the shard tightly. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if she couldn't save them? But then the laughter shifted again, transforming into a wail, a low keening sound that made her blood run cold. "Mommy, help!" The room felt like it was pulling apart at the seams, her breath shallow as she stood at the edge of oblivion. Was it time to embrace the darkness? Or could love really conquer these lurking shadows? The choice awaited her, like a looming specter. "Anna!" The call was desperate, echoing through the air. She turned, and for a heartbeat, she saw them, two small figures, flickering at the edge of the shadows, eyes bright but pleading. Could she risk it all and reach for them? With shaking resolve, she took a step forward, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited her. Then, without warning, a pulse of energy surged from the shard, illuminating the cellar in a blinding white light. And in that blinding moment, everything changed. Was this the opening to save her children or the final trap laid by Mr. Jensen? The blinding light enveloped Anna, pushing back the shadows like a wave crashing against the shore. She felt the warmth prickling her skin, cutting through the terror that gripped her heart. For a split second, doubt faded, leaving only the frantic pulse of hope. But then the shadows shrieked, a chorus of unearthly voices drowning out her thoughts, pulling back against the light. "You think that can save you?" Mr. Jensen's voice twisted through the din. "It only amplifies your weakness." She staggered as the darkness shrank momentarily, then surged again like a ravenous beast. The light flickered, threatening to dim, and her children's faces appeared once more pale, glistening with tears. "Mommy!" Their voices reached her, but they felt distant, clouded by despair. "Hold on!" She screamed, fighting against the tightening grip of shadows wrapping around her throat. She could feel the shard pulsing in her hand, and with it surged a connection to everything she loved. But the shadows whispered familiar fears slithered into her mind, igniting old insecurities. She was too late. "No!" Anna shouted, steeling herself against the oppressive darkness. "I am not losing you." She dug her fingers deeper into the shard, feeling its power surge again. She imagined her children, their laughter flooding her heart like warmth against ice. She concentrated, pushing all her love and anguish into the gleam of the shard. Light exploded, cascading in waves, forcing the shadows back once more. For a heartbeat, everything seemed harmonious, but then she felt a hard thump against her chest. "You're playing with forces you don't understand, Anna," Mr. Jensen taunted, each word laced with sorrowful glee. "They will pay for your defiance." The air crackled with energy, and the shard glowed like a beacon. "Feel it, Anna. All the darkness you've let into your heart. It makes you so delicious." The shadows writhed as if mocking her efforts, coiling tighter, drawing her closer to despair. "Run!" A voice echoed in her ears. No, it was both her children calling to her from the edges of her memory, weaving in and out of the shadows. She scanned the cellar, searching for a sign, a glimmer of her children among the shapes that pulsed and laughed, stretching grotesquely. "Mommy, come play!" They sang out, voices dripping with a sweet, insidious tone that made her skin crawl. The laughter rippled, blending with the shadows, rattling her resolve. "Join us, forever." "No!" She yelled with a ferocity that surprised her. Mustering every ounce of strength, Anna thrust the shard into the center of the chaos, bursting forth a wave of light that swept through the room, cutting through the laughter and sobbing alike. It was working. The shadows shrieked, battering against the light as they recoiled, revealing fractures in their forms, hints of the truth beneath the terror they projected. In that luminous haze, she glimpsed the outlines of lost children, desperately reaching for her, faces growing ever fainter. "Stay with me!" she shouted, torn between the light and her children. But just as she stepped forward, ready to sacrifice everything, the light dimmed. Was it all for nothing? A husky whisper resonated behind her, sending a shiver down her spine. "You will never take them from me, Anna." Mr. Jensen's voice was more solid now, infused with shadowy anguish, and she turned to see him hovering just beyond the light, his eyes burning bright. "What do you mean?" She snapped, fighting the darkness creeping back in, panic squeezing her throat. "Your choice was but a distraction. When the light fails, there are no echoes of hope left. Only us." With those words, the shadows lunged forward, the darkness rekindling like an inferno, sharper than knives, ready to consume. Anna, the soft, dying breath of her children's voices pierced through the chaos, drowning her heart in dread. "Mommy, please!" The shards of light flickered, teetering on the edge of extinction, and the cellar quaked with the promise of something unfathomable. Could she still save them, or had she already lost them to the shadows? As darkness swirled around her, squeezing tighter. Her mind raced, searching for a final answer. Hope flickered, then faded, leaving behind a chilling question: how far would she go to rescue her children from an abyss that hungered for their very souls? The shadows lunged again, a wave of black fury that swallowed the flickering light whole. Anna gasped, the air turned frigid, leaving her breath quick like a mouse caught in a trap. Panic clawed at her throat, but then she recalled the power of the shard in her hand. "Stay strong," she muttered, gripping it tighter. It pulsed in rhythm with the frantic beating of her heart, a lifeline in the tempest of despair. But every instinct screamed at her to flee, to run from the monster that Mr. Jensen had become, from the darkness that twisted the very air around her. Suddenly, the laughter of her children echoed, clearer now, hitting her like a cold slap. "Mommy! Help us!" The shadows danced, morphing into grotesque representations of her beloveds, faces contorted with fear and longing. She stumbled forward, desperate for their warmth, their familiar scent, but each step toward them met with resistance, like wading through sludge damar. Jensen's shadow loomed larger, a dark specter feeding off her anguish. "You think love will save you?" he sneered. "Love is but a flicker against this void. I'll show you what happens when you cling to false hope." With a twisting wave of his hand, he darkened the space further, and Anna felt the ground beneath her feet shift, a sickening pull dragging her downward, as if the cellar itself craved her despair. "No!" she cried, pushing against the abyss, the light flickering weakly now. Memories surged, her children laughing, their tiny hands clutching hers, a world filled with brightness instead of shadows. The emotion sparked again within her, unwavering, furious love. "Leave them alone!" Anna shouted, her voice raw, laced with the desperation of a mother cornered. She lifted the shard high, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat against the looming darkness. "Pathetic!" Mr. Jensen hissed, stepping forward, his form blurring, smoke and shadow intertwining. "None can stand against true darkness." In her mind, a flicker of doubt threatened to creep in. Was she truly strong enough? But then she saw them again. Her children. Their fragile faces flickered in and out, too quick to grasp, like whispers fading on the wind. And she thought of all the moments they would never have: their first bicycle rides, school plays, summer picnics, the quiet moments that stitched the fabric of their lives together. With renewed fervor, Anna thrust the shard down, a prayer and a weapon combined. "You are not my weakness. You are not their doom." The light exploded once more, cascading warmth through the darkness, a blinding explosion of brilliance that made the shadows shriek, a cacophony of lost souls ripping through the air. But even as the shadows writhed and recoiled, Anna felt an insidious cold creeping back, a pull stronger than before. The laughter began again, more haunting than the last, and with it came the faces of her children, clearer but twisted into masks of horror. "Mommy, help!" they cried, their voices echoing, fading into a dark tremor. "No! I'm coming!" Anna felt her spirit waver, fear puncturing her heart. The darkness thickened, suffocating her resolve. "What do you want?" she yelled, her voice breaking. "I want your surrender," Mr. Jensen replied, his voice drawing closer, the shadows slipping around her feet, wrapping tighter with each breath. Then a sudden silence fell, a pause so deep, it filled the room like a heavy shroud. "Your children cannot remain here forever," he whispered, almost tender. "Each moment you resist, it takes a piece of them." As dread washed over her, a sickening realization gripped her. Did she truly have time to reclaim them? What was left of her hope? The shadows loomed larger, cold tendrils seeking out her very essence, ready to extinguish every last drop of warmth within. "How far will you go, Anna?" he taunted, a terrible smile playing on his lips. Anna's heart raced, an impending darkness pressing down upon her. What horror awaited her and her children if she lost the fight? Or worse, would she be forced to decide between her own survival and theirs? The air thickened with dread, the shadows closing in, weaving a cocoon of despair around Anna. The shard flickered in her grip, a fragment of hope against the encroaching blackness, but it felt feeble, a fragile candle in a storm. Mommy. The voices pierced her heart like daggers, sharp and relentless. Each plea twisted in her mind, as if her children were trapped, clawing against the fabric of her reality. Panic surged with each breath. I won't give up. She screamed, but the words felt hollow amid the suffocating silence. Mr. Jensen's laughter echoed, eerie and hollow. This is the endgame, Anna. You're too late. His silhouette elongated, tendrils of darkness swirling around him like a living cloak. Suddenly, he surged forward, and Anna stumbled back, the shard barely holding against the darkness. With a guttural snarl, he lunged, shadows spiraling around him until they coalesced into an amorphous mass. I'm not the only one who wants a taste of your love, he hissed, and from behind him rose twisted faces, writhing in agony, lost souls that had succumbed to his darkness. Yes. Join us. They chanted in a chorus of madness, their voices blending into a cacophony that pulsed with a sickening rhythm, orchestrated despair. Anna's heart sank as she recognized familiar features etched in agony: neighbors, friends, those she thought were safe. Stay back. She cried, thrusting the shard forward, its light pulsing as if aware of the danger. In that moment, she wasn't just fighting for her children, she was battling the ghosts of her past, the regrets that tangled within her own heart. The light flared out, pushing back against the darkness, but it was a feeble shield. Anna felt the weight of their sorrow pressing on her shoulders, heavier with each breath. With a fierce determination, she closed her eyes, drawing from the love that had shaped her. I want to let you take them. Her voice surged with all the strength she could muster. Suddenly, she let the shard fall, letting it spin out of her grasp. In that instant, she lurched forward, plunging her hand into the swirling shadows where her children's cries reached a fever pitch. Come to me. It's not your time. The instant her fingers met the cold darkness, she shuddered, a flood of icy terror coursing through her body. It was like touching an electric fence, searing, disabling, yet awakening. The cries intensified, her children's voices imploring, filled with fear and urgency. She felt them fragile and delicate, trapped, fighting against a tide of anguish. Let go. Mr. Jensen shrieked, twisting the shadows like a serpent around her wrists, pulling her down into the abyss. There was no escape, the weight of the world pressed her further into the darkness. You can't save them. But Anna's heart burned with rebellion. They're worth fighting for. She gasped, and suddenly remembered the stories her grandmother told, the old magic that could conquer darkness if fueled by pure love. Focusing all her strength, she thrust her thoughts outward, a desperate plea that echoed in the oppressive silence. Images of laughter, hope, peace, her family united flooded her consciousness. The shadows convulsed, screaming as the golden light erupted from her heart, drowning out the darkness that clung to her like a nightmare. You're nothing without fear. She yelled, weaving her emotions into the glow. And then everything shattered. The shadows and the souls dissipated with a wretched howl. For a moment, a heart-stopping silence filled the space, but then the laughter returned, not a tortured echo but pure and joyful. Anna's own breath caught as she glimpsed her children's faces, frightened but unbroken. The shards of darkness began to retreat, swallowed by the blinding light. But before they could reach each other, an ominous rumble surged in the depths of the cellar, a deeper darkness awakening from its slumber. Not yet, Mr. Jensen rasped, his voice trembling but edged with a malignant glee. You think victory is yours? The darkness knows you. It knows how to break you. Anna's stomach dropped as shadows began to pool anew. At her feet, crawling with ominous intent. What now? She whispered, terror closing in again. The ground trembled, the light dimmed, and her children's faces flickered once more, a haunting reminder of the battle still ahead. What more could she give? Time was running out. The ground shook violently, a rumbling creature awakened, hungry for despair. Shadows raced upward, wrapping around Anna's ankles, pulling her down, into the abyss where hope held no value. Panic surged, and her heart pounded against her rib cage like a caged animal. She could see it, a darkness more profound than before, a yawning chasm that threatened to swallow them all. Mommy. The voices echoed louder now, a haunting symphony that twisted knots in her stomach. It felt like they were trying to claw their way back to her, straining against unseen chains. Hold on. She screamed, forcing her legs to move against the dark tide. She couldn't let them see her falter. Not now. The shadows writhed, morphing into grotesque forms, reaching for her like skeletal hands. Their faces swirled in the dark, gaping mouths formed high in the ceiling, screaming curses as they echoed in her ears. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. They taunted. Shut up. She screeched, swinging her arms wildly, swatting at the darkness like it was an angry swarm of bees. The light within her flared again, but it felt weaker, dwindling under the weight of despair. Jensen's figure loomed larger, an immense dark titan in the swirling chaos. The more you resist, the stronger it becomes. You're only prolonging the inevitable. His face split into a terrible grin, a malevolent smile that dripped with malice. You think your love can conquer this? Love is but a flicker against the void. You know nothing. Anna retorted, forcing herself to focus, to breathe through the encroaching panic. I know my children's hearts. I know love. Then let us see just how far love will take you. Suddenly, shadows whipped toward her like a tempest, encasing her in a cold embrace, squeezing tight until she could barely breathe. And in that suffocating moment, a flicker caught her eye. In the corner of the cellar, a soft glow pulsed, beckoning like a lighthouse in the storm. It was the shard, rolling toward her. Hope. Or was it a cruel trick? Grab it. Her instincts screamed. With strength she didn't know she had, Anna lurched forward, snatching the shard into her palm. Its warmth coursed through her veins, igniting her spirit. Stay back. She shouted, brandishing it like a weapon, the light brightening, casting long shadows that shrank and hissed. I will not let you take my family. Not again. A wave of energy surged through her, and the glowing shard radiated pure light, slicing through the dark like a knife. The specters shrieked, a strangled sound echoing around her, retreating as if burned by the intensity of that love-fueled light. But Mr. Jensen's laughter rang out, malign and mocking. You think that's enough? Look around you. She glanced back, and her heart plummeted again. The shadows were multiplying. New faces emerged, crowded at the edges of her vision, grotesque and ghastly. They hadn't just been dormant, they were feeding off her fear. The air crackled with a malevolent energy, thicker than the darkness itself. Mommy! Help! Her children's voices rang again, distant yet so close. Hope flickered within her, but doubt clawed viciously. How long could she hold this newfound strength? Was it fleeting like the light of the shard? In a terrifying moment of clarity, Anna realized that the light might not be enough to defeat the darkness. What do I need to do? She whispered to herself, but before she could process the next step, the ground shattered beneath her, a deep split forming as if the earth itself sought to consume her whole. Turn back. You're losing. Mr. Jensen roared, the shadows swirling into a storm, cloaking the space in impossible blackness. Anna felt the weight of desperation fill her chest as realization dawned. She wasn't just fighting for her children, she was fighting against her own fears, her doubts, her failures. And then, through the chaos, she heard it again, the whispers of hope, the promises of love, echoing from the shard pulsing in her palm. Not just a weapon, but a reminder. What if she could use it to build a bridge? Anna! A voice broke through. The din, striking like a lightning bolt. Mom! Another called, right behind it. But could she find the path to them before the darkness consumed her? With trembling determination, she locked her gaze on the abyss. I will not lose you. And that was the moment when the darkness surged back, a monstrous wave crashing toward her. Would the light hold? Time was slipping away. Just as the darkness lunged, Anna felt an electric jolt of energy erupt from the shard. It blazed with an almost blinding light, forcing her eyes to squint. Shadows shrieked, contorting and writhing as the illuminating wave crashed through them, but they didn't leave without a fight. The howls of the damned echoed, rising and falling like a wretched melody. Anna could feel the weight of their sorrow pressing against her chest, threatening to pull her under. "No!" she screamed, pushing back against the dark tide. The light surged from the shard, pouring into the space like spilled water, illuminating the haunting visages that clawed at her from every angle. They were twisted variations of reality, where the faces were familiar yet wrong, memories of those she loved warped into malicious forms. All of it swung toward her, eyes gleaming with a hunger that sent shivers creeping down her spine. "Mommy, we're scared." Her children's voices cried out again, unmistakable and pure, cutting through the fear that drowned her. She stumbled, clutching the shard tightly, the warmth becoming a steady pulse in her palm, like a heartbeat. Could she really wield this light? But the thought of failing them, of being consumed by the darkness, forced her to steel herself. She had to believe in the love she knew still remained their perfect moments, laughter echoing in summer evenings, bedtime stories whispered into the night, souls intertwined by bonds stronger than mere existence. Together. She shouted, drawing on the memories that floated in the bright light. "We can fight this." As the energy within her swelled, the dark tendrils hesitated, retreating just a fraction. Anna pressed her fingertips into the shard as if to peel the light from it and cast it outward, a blazing beacon against the encroaching void, but Mr. Jensen's shadowy form towered, an ominous figure rising through the chaos, a puppet master pulling the strings of despair. "You think a flicker of light will save you? I will unleash the true horror of your soul." With that, the shadows erupted once again, swirling violently, tightening around her until she could hardly breathe. She felt the pressure crush her ribs, the cold seep into her skin. The glow felt paper-thin in the face of this consuming darkness veined with raw malice and fury. "Mom! Please!" came the pleading voices again, but now they sounded muffled, as if lost in the depths of a storm. Cold fear gripped her heart, a doubt that sank deep, heavy and relentless. Suddenly, Anna realized the shard pulsing in her palm wasn't just a source of light, it was her connection to her family's love, each pulse a reminder of resilience. If she could weave her memories together like a tapestry, create a shield strong enough to withstand the horrors surrounding her clarity. She yelled, the shout bursting forth with raw determination. She focused every fiber of her being on her children and the unyielding love she possessed, and then silence. A stillness enveloped her, as if the world held its breath. The crashing dark halted, shadows flickering hesitantly, caught in a limbo as they sensed the shift. Directing her thoughts, Anna imagined the moment they read books cuddled together, the warmth in their embraces, and the shared joy that birthed her strength. The shard ignited with brilliance, and she felt a swirling energy begin to manifest around her, shaping into a radiant form that pushed back against the darkness. It wasn't merely light, it was a bridge between worlds, an anchor of hope forged from love, yet even as this realization blossomed, a tremor shuddered through the ground beneath her. The fractured earth gaped wider, an abyss formed by the very despair she fought against, as if the dark entity sensed the tide changing. "Your time is limited, Anna," Mr. Jensen's voice boomed, echoing sinister laughter. "Let us see if your love can actually hold against the collapse." The shadows clawed at her again, a final surge of desperation. The air turned thick with dread, fear swirling like a tempest. Would it be enough? Anna, refusing to relent, focused all her energy on that spark of love, her determination merging with the shard's light. It was now or never. Calculating her next move, she whispered the names of her children, each syllable a litany of courage. And with that, she leaped toward the abyss, the light erupting from the shard like a fiery sun, illuminating the darkness as though it could burn through the very fabric of despair. Would love prove victorious? Or would the shadows swallow her whole? As Anna hurtled into the abyss, light exploding from the shard, the darkness recoiled, twisting into frantic shapes, a wounded beast snarling in the face of its enemy. The echo of her children's voices surged in her ears, urging her forward, wrapping her in warmth even as the cold void threatened to snuff it out. The radiant force enveloped her, its brilliance blinding. She was no longer only herself, she became every moment that had ever defined her as a mother. Each heartbeat pulsed with nostalgia, laughter, and love, an unbreakable web of memories. But the shadows roared back, driven by fury, desperate to reclaim what they had lost. Foolish woman. Mr. Jensen's laughter cut through, sharp and severe. Your memories are just chains that will bind you. As the ground beneath her trembled, fissures opened wider, revealing writhing shadows that clawed upwards, yearning to devour the light. Dread snaked down Anna's spine, a heartbeat of despair that ballooned in her chest. What if his words were true? What if her love was a mere illusion, easily shattered, but she stood firm? She narrowed her focus, recalling the joyous echoes of birthday parties, the scent of her children's hair after a day at the beach, and their soft giggles at bedtime tales. And then, deep within that soft glow, something flickered, a memory that felt different, darker. Anna hesitated. A worry crept into her consciousness. Had she given power to something evil by leaping into this fight? It was as if a chill whispered, lurking in the corners of her mind, beckoning her to doubt her resolve. Suddenly, a surge of shadows lunged at her, tendrils made of malevolence and wretchedness swirling menacingly. They lashed against her light, seeking a breach, a crack in her defenses. The air crackled around her, a storm brewing, fueled by the chaotic energy erupting from Mr. Jensen's dark laughter. Feel the despair, Anna. It echoed off the walls, reverberating in her bones. You think your memories are mighty? They are nothing but tickets to your demise. Fury mixed with fear surged in her as she stood her ground, the shard pulsating with life. Yet the shadows pressed closer, hungry and relentless, clawing at the shimmering aura around her. She began to question whether her memories were truly strong enough or if they were just fodder for the dark. Remember the truth. She yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos. Remember why I fight. For you. Her children, their dazzling smiles and innocent laughter, flooded her mind with renewed strength. The darkness faltered for just a moment, hesitation rippled through the shadowy masses, yet Mr. Jensen surged once more, a monstrous grin spreading across his darkened face. You are too late. The darkness knows your fear, your failures. It knows you are alone. In an instant, the shadows intensified, swirling in a vortex of chaos. A flood of despair crashed over her, the grip of terror tightening. Anna gasped as that familiar doubt encroached. The abyss yawned wider, revealing memories twisted into grotesque forms, memories she wished to forget. Stop! She screamed, shaking her head, willing herself to push through. She called upon the light from the shard, weaving her love into a protective barrier. Around her, echoes began to merge, forming a chorus of hope that pierced through the torment. But just as clarity began to manifest, jolting her spirit awake, the darkness lashed out with a primal scream. A tide of shadows fell upon her, blotting out the light, pulling her towards an endless void that seemed determined to erase her very existence. In that moment, she realized this was a fight she could not win alone. She needed her family's strength, their love woven tightly into the fabric of her heart. The fragmented memory she had glimpsed tightened its grip on her as she allowed the light to guide her, forging a path towards a glimmer of hope, and then she felt it, something else amidst the chaos. A pulse, faint yet real, thrumming like a faraway bell. Was it their love? Their hope? Or perhaps a forgotten secret that could either be her salvation or the catalyst for utter destruction? As the shadows clawed toward her, dark fingers inches away from sealing her fate, Anna screamed into the void. You can't take away my love. But the answer carried an unsettling weight, reverberating into the darkness. Would the truth finally unravel the ties binding them, or would it plunge her deeper into despair? The echoes began to swirl, and as the shadows pressed harder against her shield, she sensed the shift, something hidden deep within her grasp, something that could either save them all or doom them forever. What had been lurking in the depths of her heart? And would she conjure the strength to face it before the darkness consumed everything? The light surged around Anna, filling her with a fierce determination. She could feel the tendrils of darkness pulling at the edges of her resolve, but with each heartbeat, the warmth of her love pushed back. You cannot take my children. She cried, her voice resonant and fierce, breaking through the cacophony of fear surrounding her. The shadows writhed, trying to wrap around her throat, but Anna fought back, clutching the shard tight. It pulsed with promise, a beacon of her fierce love and unwavering belief. But as the darkness pressed in again, she felt something shift within her, a forgotten truth that had been buried under layers of doubt and despair. Remember the sacrifices, the love that's been built upon hope, she whispered, her eyes narrowing as she focused on what truly mattered. No longer was it a battle against Jensen alone, it was a clash of convictions. The memory of her children flooded back to her, their laughter ringing out like sweet music in the heart of chaos, a reminder of everything she cherished. "Mommy! Please!" Their voices echoed again, but this time, it didn't sound distorted. It was a call, clear and vibrant, reaching her across the veil of darkness. She could visualize them, their faces illuminated by the warmth of joy, sparkling like stars against the endless night. "I won't abandon you. Not now, not ever," Anna declared, her heart throbbing with renewed strength. She could not yield to despair, could not let the darkness claim her. With that thought blazing bright in her mind, she aimed the shard directly at the heart of the shadowy mass. Golden light exploded from her palm, slicing through the oppressive gloom like a knife. The shadows screamed, twisting and recoiling, their forms wriggling as they tried to escape the radiance. "You think you can extinguish me?" Jensen's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, a chilling laugh that sent chills down her spine. "You're trapped, Anna." "No," she declared, each word ringing with finality. "I am not trapped. You are." With that, she pushed with all her might, channeling every memory, every ounce of love she held for her family into the shard. The blinding light erupted, sending tremors through the earth as shadows writhed and shrieked. As the wave washed over the cellar, it felt as though the ground had cracked open to swallow the darkness whole. The laughter faded, replaced by cries of disbelief echoing in the cavernous expanse. But then, just as hope surged, she felt a painful tug, a cruel reminder of how close Jensen lurked, darkness swirling on the edges of her vision. "You will regret this," he bellowed, the shadows coiling tighter, clawing at her sides, trying to drag her back into despair. With a swift motion, Anna reached for the shard again. She envisioned her children standing beside her, shining like beacons of light. Their love wrapped around her like an indestructible shield. "I am their mother, and I will protect them," she cried out, thrusting the shard forward one last time. The resulting burst of light was cataclysmic, cascading through the cellar as if the very fabric of darkness was ripping apart. Amidst the chaos, she could see the contours of her children's forms forming clearly, shimmering with hope. "Mommy!" they shouted, and as the darkness began to dissipate, she pushed through and lunged toward them, holding on to that gleaming love. She dove deeper into the light, fighting against the remnants of shadow swirling angrily around her. "We're coming. I'm here," she shouted, reaching out for them, fingers almost touching warmth. With a final surge of determination, the light expanded, engulfing the shadows entirely. For a moment, every painful memory, every fear melted away, and she felt herself lifted, floating in blinding white. Suddenly, reality solidified around her. The shadows, no longer able to sustain their form, crumbled and disintegrated. Anna gasped, blinking against the brightness. Then she felt warmth envelop her, the familiar embrace of her children. She held them tightly, tears of joy cascading down her cheeks. Mom! Mike and Lily were overjoyed, their innocent laughter like music to her ears. The horror of the cellar faded, replaced by a peaceful stillness. "We were so scared," Lily cried, her voice tender and true. Anna knelt, cradling them close. "I know, but I'll always fight for you. Always." She looked around, the cellar no longer a place of nightmares, just a memory of darkness defeated. Yet, as she held her children, a sense of resolution washed over her, drawing a line between the shadows of the past and the light of the future. Cedar Hollow had always been a place wrapped in mystique, but now it was a foundation of strength built on love and resilience. "Let us go home," she whispered, her voice soft but filled with purpose. Hand in hand, they turned away from the remnants of their fear, walking toward the light, the shadows left behind. As they emerged into the world above, Anna breathed in fresh, crisp air. It felt more vibrant and alive than ever. Cedar Hollow was steeped in its stories, old and forgotten, but she was determined to create new narratives, forging a path illuminated by hope and love. In that moment, Anna recognized the importance of facing fears. They lingered like shadows in the corners of her life, but bravery would always push back against their claws. This was not just an end, but a new beginning. And with her children by her side, she was ready to embrace the world anew, every secret, every mystery, and every challenge together. As she walked toward home, warmth stealing over her heart, she knew she could conquer anything with love lighting the way. She had won today, but more importantly, she had learned the true power of family. And now, if you've enjoyed this wild ride with Anna and her family, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that give you chills and thrills. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. What do you think about how Anna faced the darkness? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of showing support through these actions.